Exciting and new podcast episode 4. I'm Jason.
I'm Andy. Yeah.
And I'm Brian.
There we go.
He's here. I promise you, he's here. He's not somewhere else. He is definitely here.
He's fiddling with the dials.
We're here to discuss the third episode in season 1 of The Love Boat, which originally aired on October 8th, 1977. And the three small stories for this episode were X plus Y, Golden Agers, and Graham and Kelly. We had 2 directors, Stuart Margolin and Alan Rafkin.
I wonder how they broke that duty up this time, because last week it was all 3 directors directed one of the segments. Now it seems that someone's doing double duty.
Yeah, maybe somebody's like, I gotta go. Can you take over for me?
Maybe they said this one needs no directing. Just Julie, stick your tongue down that guy's throat and let's go.
Okay, and let me pull up the summary on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. This story, this episode is Barney Mason, Robert Reed, and his ex-wife Terry Larson, played by Loretta Swit, meet on the cruise with their new spouses, Pamela Bellwood and Richard Mulligan. Julie's love interest, Jim Wright, speaking of Wright, spelled with a W-R here, played by Charles Frank, chaperoning of senior citizens, leaves little time for them to be together. And we have teenagers Graham, played by Scott Baio, and Kelly, Christy McNichol, finding puppy love together on this episode of The Love Boat.
Okay, let's go. So I noticed you pointed out the fact that the guy's name is spelled right on with a W on IMDb, while on the Paramount Plus app, his name was spelled Right, which I found really strange, distracting.
That has to be a typo by maybe a Gen Zer. I'm going to throw it out there, because
possibly.
It's just, here on IMDb, it does have Jim Wright, senior's chaperone. He's the senior chaperone for the group that he is leading. We'll get to that here in the opening scene. First, we had Ron and Terry Larson, and that's Richard Mulligan and Loretta Swit rushing onto the boat, basically excited for their vacation.
Now here's Christy McNichol getting on the boat. She's a tweenish kind of kid with her kid sister, and
her sister Polly, and she's playing Kelly. If we mix up the names, I know we flip flop back and forth on the names. It's hard to remember. So.
This is it's very hard to remember names.
And we have Scott Baio and Hermione. Am I saying that right? Hermione.
Have you never watched Harry Potter?
I have not.
Hermione
Baddeley, who I remember from an old TV show called Maude. She played Mrs. Nagatuck.
You never watched Harry Potter, huh?
No, it is on my list. I do want to see it eventually.
No Titanic, and
there's no need to see the Titanic.
What was the other one?
Yeah, Forrest Gump was that
you don't
one.
have to see that. That's garbage. All right, Mr. Brady's getting out of his cab with his young wife, girlfriend, fiance.
One of the above.
Yeah, I forget which one it is. We'll find out later.
We will find out. And now here comes our last storyline entering the boat, and that's Mr. Wright, who we were just speaking of with the WR. And he is he's leading a group of seniors where the name of their group is called Life Begins at 60. So Julie basically was looking for someone who was 60 named Jim Wright, but it ended up being this. I got to say, he's just stunning.
Well,
he's stunning.
This plot is so stupid that this guy has to lead a group of over 60-year-olds. Now, listen, I'm not 60 yet, but 60's right there waiting to crash down on me in a bunch of years. These people are obviously not 60 years old. They're old people.
These are Wilford Brimley filming Cocoon looking. They're only 55, but they're really looking 85.
They look old. But why does this guy have to chaperone them around? That makes no sense to me.
They're not at an age where they can't do it themselves.
They're all jumping around, dancing, drinking, acting like fools the whole episode. What do they even need him for?
They do some illegal gambling as well. I thought that was fun.
They do. But just the fact that, as we'll find out as this episode continues, his whole cruise is taken up by just them coming up to him at inappropriate times saying, come on, it's time to go do something. Why do they care if he's doing stuff with them?
Every single time that happened. But let's not forget the crazy plots that we've had for this. If you do remember the plot where the newlyweds were afraid to have sex because they want to tell each other.
Stupid. This is dumber. So here are all these old people coming on the boat.
Also, Mr. Wright and Julie were pretty much having eye sex.
They hit it off right off the bat. Now, this old guy here, the Scotsman that will be playing
Spoiler alert.
bagpipes later for some unknown reason. The worst of all the
Just to interrupt him and Julie.
The worst of all instruments. So he looks like, and I had to look it up because it couldn't possibly have been him. Boogie Nights, is that a movie you've seen?
Yes, it is.
The producer on Boogie Nights, the guy that is kind of bankrolling Burt Reynolds on that, he's the one that gets busted for child porn or whatever. I thought that was him. And I was like, but that guy's like 60 in Boogie Nights. How could it possibly be him? It's obviously not him. But
all right, I was going to say if you had some crazy,
no. I'm not saying this guy's a pedophile.
It was his son all along.
This guy's a pedophile, but he looks so much like him. I was like, oh, is that the guy from Boogie Nights? And it was not. So here we get our first look at Isaac. He's helping Richard Mulligan and Loretta Swit to drinks.
Yeah, he had some jokes here too. He said, "What was it?" He said, "The first one's delicious. The second one's dangerous. The third one, you're going bowling with your head." That was the third one. Going bowling with your head. And Richard Mulligan made the joke that he's a good bowler, so he wanted another drink, and that's when Isaac then said, "Headed for strike one."
So this is Richard Mulligan. I'm going to say this is pre-Soap Richard Mulligan, because Soap is like,
I want to say Soap was early 80s, right?
So this is before that, and this is Loretta Swit at the height of MASH. I mean, MASH was like, I'm going to say 72 to 83, something like that. So this is her at her hottest lips. This is her at her hottest lips, yes. Which is funny that she would need to do that. Well, I mean, anybody can have any reason for doing this show, but MASH was probably taking up all her time at this time. So I'm wondering why she would do this, but whatever. There she is.
On hiatus, and maybe she gets to go out on.
She gets a free cruise. And she cruises with Richard Mulligan and Mr. Brady. That's fun.
So this is where we find out who Terry, Hot Lips, and Richard Mulligan, who they are. They're newly married. And Richard Mulligan was actually her marriage counselor with her ex-husband, who is being played by Robert Reed. Barney Mason is his name in this episode. And this is the scene where she notices that he's on the boat as well.
What are the odds that they would be on the same boat?
Again, this is, I think, just to make the story move along a little faster.
Crazy.
It would probably be a lot longer.
Well, there'd be no story, I guess, if it was just the two of them hanging out. Yeah, so she sees Robert Reed.
But she sees him, and then she runs off, which is was similar to last week with John Ritter when he saw his girl and he started shouting at her from across the dining room.
I'd just like to say that they're talking to Gopher here about nonsense, whatever they're talking to him about. But Gopher hardly appears in this episode at all.
It was this was
Doc has
this was his Isaac episode.
Doc has like one line in this whole thing talking about like his 4 wives. He's like, I know a lot about
Doc also has that line about suspension bridges with Chachi.
Yeah, she's talking to Chachi.
It's very
and Chachi knows
both of them had a lot of knowledge about
a lot of knowledge about suspension bridges. I had to Google what a suspension bridge was. So anyway,
so this is where I guess
a lot of time. I mean, they probably paid the most to get Richard Mulligan and Hot Lips here. They're spending a lot of time. Just
Hot Lips basically just trashing Robert Reed throughout that, and Richard Mulligan saying he kind of liked him. Yeah. He seemed like a nice guy. So
here's Chachi's grandma. I don't know what her name is, just grandma. Let's say
we'll call her Mrs. It was Kitty Pickerel.
Oh, call her Kitty then.
Kitty, it is. Yeah. So yeah, we have Mrs. Pickerel. She do you remember what she orders a drink through Isaac here? Do you remember what her beverage was?
I know there's a lot of whiskey sours later in this episode. She's not getting a whiskey sour though.
No. Do you have any idea? Yeah,
Brian, what was it?
A Boilermaker.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course, because she drops a shot in the glass. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I wanted to add that because you see her drop the shot. So it's great.
I didn't know a Boilermaker actually had to have the shot dropped in the glass. I thought it was a shot
served
in a beer
next to it. Yeah,
I didn't know you did that. I'm not a Boilermaker guy.
Isaac jokes to her about being 21, a little tongue in cheek there, you know. And then immediately after that, she walks over to Christy McNichol and her younger sister, who are playing cards, and she just basically says, "Hello, what are you playing?" "I'm playing."
Yeah.
And we're playing Crazy Eights. Have a seat. And she's like, "Okay, I'm playing." And then she just basically, I don't know, it seemed like she just jumped into that whole storyline there. It's just
very weird family dynamics on all these, because like Christy McNichol and her sister are here. She got on the boat with her dad, but I don't think we ever see the dad again. So they're kind of on their own as two preteens. And then Chachi's on the boat with his
they're
grandmother.
playing 12-year-olds in this, I believe, right?
And Chachi's with his grandmother. Like
his British grandmother.
I love my grandmothers. Yeah. I would have not gone on a cruise with either one of them this is like a 10-day cruise. At one point they say 10-day cruise, and I wouldn't go on a 10-day cruise with just my grandmother. That's crazy. Also, I'd like to point out that they never ever mention in this entire episode where this cruise goes to.
This one they didn't. They just mentioned when it's coming back into
Puerto
LA.
Vallarta, there's no Cabo.
They said we're 30 minutes outside of LA. That's the only thing we
never
get for this
once
one.
mentioned where they go. We don't see anybody get off the boat.
So this is now where that's also where Chachi now meets Christy McNichol, and they
and he acts like a complete goon.
He doesn't know how to act in front of a girl. He's just like, I guess, like imitating like a
I felt like Igor or something like that.
That's what I was thinking. Igor. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But, so she said, yeah, it was cute but weird. It was like, so there was like, you could tell they kind of wanted a little connection, but again, they're 12 in this episode, so not so much really important. To be focusing the love part on that.
Only 12-year-olds on the entire ship, so their options are slim.
If
they're looking for love, I mean, this is the love boat, even though these are children, but yet the love boat. So here we go.
Which leads right into my favorite scene of this whole episode is the skeet shooting.
This is ridiculous.
Robert Reed's skeet shooting
with an actual loaded rifle. And he aims it at Loretta Swit at one point, and nobody stops him. No one makes any
Judy,
attempt.
his
she's
girl
like,
says,
do you think that's a good idea?
Put that thing down.
Yeah. So he's aiming a loaded rifle at a boat full of people, and it's just kind of like, isn't that cute? And one of the not hilarious.
But
things,
first, let's talk about how great he was. I mean,
he's a great skeet shooter.
They compared him to William Tell, and he said he also juggles, figure skates, and he pitched a no-hitter for the Yankees.
I think he
and
was
then
exaggerating.
You had gullible Julie going, really?
And he says, I lied about the figure skating or something like that. So he still pitched the no-hitter for the Yankees. All right.
But Julie probably thinks that. So,
I did like the fact that the obvious, when he shoots the skeet, it's such obvious stock footage, like the film quality lessened every time you went and saw the skeet explode. I was like, okay, I guess they cut that from some World War II movie or something like that.
He thinks of his ex-wife while he's skeet shooting, and he said he didn't want to think about his ex-wife anymore, just like he didn't want to think about Edsel Stock. Stock and Edsel.
Edsel. I mean, this is in the 70s. Edsel hadn't existed for like 20 years at least. Ridiculous. So the scene that just happened was Julie in the pool and whatever his name is.
It was romance over breakfast.
Chris Wright?
No, that was Jim.
Jim Wright.
Yeah.
Jim Wright. He comes up and she comes out of the pool. Now, I question the fact that she's allowed to use the pool during work hours. Like, she's working.
Well, why is Doc sitting down with Chachi later on talking about the bridges? It makes no sense because it's in the guest area.
That makes more sense. He's just being friendly, but she's actually just using the pool. And he comes up to her while she's in the pool and whatever. The old people drag him away. That's all there is to say about that. But it was just so silly. She was like in the pool using it. I was like, should she not be doing that?
She's the cruise director, so she should be pointing people to the pool, not, hey, I'll hop in with you. I'm going to grab my towel. I got an idea. We can go. I'll go get him together.
These cruise ships are so ancient by today's standards. These pools are gigantic now on these ships, and there's always a bunch of nonsense going on around the pool. No nonsense here, just people.
I've never been on a cruise, but do the cruise directors remember everybody's names?
No, they don't remember anybody's name.
And their whole storyline, like what's going on in their personal lives.
Who are you here trying to meet? I forgot to mention at the very beginning of this, no send-off, no confetti, no anything at the beginning of this. They just left.
I like those when you see some of that is like stock footage as well.
This almost seemed like they had to film this on a set. They never get off this boat. You never see them in any
they didn't go to any land on this one.
So who knows?
Okay, so Julie and Mr. Wright. Then we were talking over we had breakfast together, blah blah blah. But it was like everybody was in the dining room or whatever. But
then there was the scene with Chachi talking to Doc about
that
bridges.
The whole bridges and stuff like that. And I guess that's when the Doc tells Chachi, "Hey, compliment her."
Oh, okay.
Because
that's Doc. Is that where he says, "I know a lot about women. I've been married 4 times," or something like that?
Yeah, because I believe Julie tells Kelly to flirt.
Oh, okay.
Or no, to ask him about him.
Oh, right.
Ask
about
about him.
Yeah. What do you drive? And she's like, he's 12.
Yeah.
Whatever. Dummies.
And then we had the next scene was when Barney and Terry bump into each other coming out of an elevator again.
Oh, these elevators are chaotic on this ship. Yes, we know from last week when
she asks, "What's he doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I brought a friend on a cruise." And they started boasting about the others, like she's talking about her new husband, and he's talking about how great his girlfriend is. They make some wisecracks. She made a joke about her being in school still, and then
she does say has she graduated high school yet?
And then there was a broom. The joke for the witch. She called he called her a witch, and then then Barney just it's just I guess confrontation, just to get that scene rolling and into
these ships. You can avoid people if you want to. You don't have to take the one. There's not one elevator. You can go on the entire different side of the boat.
But every time there's a confrontation at the elevator, they're the only ones there. It's like there's
no one's waiting for the elevator. The elevator doors aren't opening. People trying to get off, pushing past them.
But the two people
this is a TV
didn't want to
show,
bump into each other.
It's like this was filmed.
Let's shoot that again.
Yeah, can you not knock Robert Reed over when you're trying to get off the elevator past him?
Yeah, that was all right. So we got the whole line. He's only 12. That was the line you just said. And then Doc asked, and he said, flatter her. And that's when he mentioned that he'd been married 4 times. That was where he had
four times.
And that's not the first time that he's mentioned that. We've heard that a few times
I could
now.
have sworn the last time he said how many times he was married, it was 3. I really thought he said I've been married 3 times.
I don't recall he may have said that, but I do know 4 times is what I've. If I was asked that question, I would have said 4. I don't know. I don't know if 3 might be right, but the Doc's been out there. Let's just say that the Doc's out there, and he's loving every minute of it.
Well, he's quite the player. Although we don't see him playing, he is not the player in this episode at all.
There's another weird scene coming up again with the captain for when they're all going to the captain's table for dinner.
Yeah, this is the only scene that Stubing's in.
Yeah, and
you never see him again in this whole entire episode, which is weird since he is the captain. But
so again, we get like the fake marriage counselor business being talked about because they're just complaining about each other. And there was introductions because they didn't know who Robert Reed's significant other was in this, so there was introductions there. And then Stubing shows up, and he as he's about to sit down, and he has Loretta Swit and Richard Mulligan sit down. He wants it to be boy girl, old ancient nautical tradition. He wanted this way.
I don't know that that's an actual.
I don't think it's a tradition either.
I would think that most of these boats.
I
think most of these boats at one point were boy.
These were captain's orders. Yeah, there was a lot of boys on these ships.
There were no women on boats back in the day. This is really silly. Yeah, so Stubing's only appearance in the entire episode is this.
I think they had to put him in the timeout from last week with John Ritter. Remember how he was very abusive?
He was. How do you get invited to the captain's table? Brian, you're a cruiser. You're a frequent cruiser. Have you ever been invited to the captain's table?
Is that something you have to pay extra for?
I don't know.
No, I've never been invited.
I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I went on a cruise one time where I sat at the captain's table, but the captain wasn't there. We had a big group of people. There were like 12 of us, and they sat us at the captain's table just because.
To me, I would think nowadays it would probably be like, you're going to have dinner with the captain. And it's like everybody in that room at that time, the captain walks in. Yeah, hello, everybody.
Yeah, he eats with 200 people, not 6.
Yeah.
And it's a surprise that there's 6 people at this table, and 4 of them are people we know. Isn't that like, how they get invited?
There's so many people on this ship.
And yet they're all right at the captain's table. It's as if this was scripted and they had to get these people all at the same table together.
It's the only way they could get the story moving along, apparently.
And so Stubing's completely uncomfortable.
This is weird, too, because then they're bickering, and then like she compliments the house.
Oh, there's a great... Yeah, he says they tore up the dining room floor and put AstroTurf down. They put AstroTurf. And he's like, it's practical. I was like, that's like for your 1970s porch, the AstroTurf.
It made no sense.
It's not Veteran Stadium AstroTurf. Oh, that was garbage too. It is that shitty porch, AstroTurf. So silly.
Then there was the guillotine joke here because they were looking for amenities, and they were like, but is there a guillotine?
Oh yeah, the
Julie,
is that her name? The
Robert Reed's girl, Judy.
Judy. Yeah. She was very complimentary of Loretta Swit's decorating of the house now she currently lives in.
Yes.
And Loretta Swit was taken by that. She thanked her, and then of course she started talking about how she tore this up and tore that up.
And then Steubing calls for a truce, basically, where he says, like, let's think it's World War I. It's Christmas time. And he called them the Huns and the Doughboys.
Oh, the Huns. I guess they were Huns. Those Germans.
Calling for a truce. And then basically Richard Mulligan, after the truce was accepted, they decided to let's have a double date, basically, I guess. And they're either going to go to the casino or go dancing. Which, again, I didn't understand why. All of a sudden you can't stand each other. Now you're going to do a double date because Steubing said so.
Just don't be around each other.
Why did they even sit down at the table? They could have just left.
I would have been like, I'm not feeling well. Let's go.
Can I have that brought back to the cabin?
Go.
Is that possible? Can you have cabin service?
And again, being a veteran of cruises, there's 1,000 different places you can eat on these places. You do not have to eat dinner there. Everybody's always dressed up so nice at dinner. I'm wearing the same exact thing I wore to the pool that day.
I'm on vacation. I don't want to have to, I'm putting on a gown.
You're lucky I have underwear.
For dinner.
You are lucky that I'm wearing underwear. And sometimes I'm not even doing that.
Yeah, it's just like, and I will not, it seemed like structured. You have to go to dinner at this time. It's like,
I think it used to be like that. I think it used to be much more structured. But nowadays,
I like that 2:30 a.m. slice of pizza.
And there's that too. Believe me, there is that too. So Chrissy McNichol is getting ready for, now, is she meeting Chachi? Does she know?
It was weird because all of a sudden she had like a letter from Chachi saying, "Hey, let's what was it, dance?"
Yeah,
or whatever.
but we never see him write the letter. We never see
until
him deliver the
Chachi comes
letter.
into the room with a pimple.
Oh, yeah, this time he's got a pimple, but you never see Chachi write the letter or deliver the letter.
There was none of that either because I thought I'd missed something as well, but I didn't.
So, Chrissy McNichol's getting all.
This was
dolled up.
I thought this was riveting television that Chachi broke in midway through this episode with a pimple.
Yeah,
and
tragic.
Yeah, and Mrs. Nugatuck, she says it looks like a freckle.
She's like, sooner or later you're going to get one. He says, how about sooner or later, not now? Something like that. Some terrible line. I also like to point out Chachi's wearing white pants throughout this entire episode. No matter how he's dressed, whether it's a T-shirt or a suit, jacket, tie, and shirt, he's wearing white pants throughout, which is a weird look.
He also threatened to go get drunk instead of go on this date, which I thought was interesting. He is 12. We're going to recap that. He is 12. And then Kelly actually ends up arriving at his cabin.
Now, Gopher comes behind them there and doesn't say, excuse me, doesn't say a word, just walks right past them. No reason that Gopher was in that scene right there, to walk right past them.
This is where Isaac actually seats them as well. But right before that, Kelly picks up Chachi because she wanted to have him avoid her younger sister Polly hitting him with a water balloon.
Right. And Chachi tips Isaac with a napkin for seating them because he couldn't find the dollar.
He meant to grab the dollar. He was definitely nervous. I felt for Chachi here because I can't tell you how many times I've reached into my pocket and pulled out the wrong thing.
Oh, well. If I ever carried
maybe
cash,
twice. Maybe twice.
I don't carry cash. I'll get you later. I'll tip you later. So now they're on this date, but they don't do anything, right?
The date is been where she's asking him what he likes. And he's complimenting her, but he keeps saying the same thing.
You look nice.
She gets pissed off at him. Nice. And she said, then she said, why don't you tell him he looks nice?
Yeah, this was terrible. I feel bad for these kids. Forced into this because.
Now, I looked up their ages. Christy McNichol was 15 during this episode, and Scott Baio was 17.
Oh, he is 17 here?
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's 12.
Born in 1960, yeah. Look at him.
Wow. I am shocked that he's 17 here. He looks like a little kid.
Yeah.
Now, Christy McNichol at this time, I think, was a gigantic star. This is like during her, what was that, Family? Was that the show she was on? Wasn't that the show she was on?
What was that called?
Nah, she wasn't Needed As Enough. I think it was Family. But this was at her height, Christy McNichol, because I remember in the 70s her being big.
Well, Little Darlings and Family is what
Family. That was a TV
Little
show.
Darlings was the movie that everybody knew her from.
But Family was like a Waltons type show. I never ever watched it, but it was that kind of just following a family, I guess. Sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's got a former Love Boat special guest, Meredith Baxter.
Oh, was she really? I wonder if she was her mom or something like that. Anyway, Kristen McNichol was a big star at this time, and then never again.
If we could, if maybe an aside here, maybe you want to tell a quick story about your wife's love for Scott Baio.
Well, let's see. My wife she was around in the 70s and the 80s, still around, not dead, but Chachi's fame,
Allegedly,
what, still alive?
Allegedly not dead.
She was and probably still is a huge Scott Baio fan, to the point where her desk at work has a picture of her and Scott Baio with arms around each other, even though it's not actually her body.
I know who photoshopped that.
It's her face on another woman's body.
I do know who photoshopped that. Yeah. You're sitting across from him.
But yeah, she was a big fan of the old Chotster back in the day. In fact, such a big fan of him that when he had that show a bunch of years ago, like Scott Baio Turns 40 or whatever it was called, we had to watch that. I remember watching it. Yeah, I watched like the first 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, this is not for me. So he was born in 1960?
Yes.
So that means he's 61 now. Yes. So that was a long time ago, that show.
I do remember your wife also mentioning something along the lines of like she loved Chachi so much. I think she had like a poster.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
But also that her mom had to tell her that Chachi was their distant cousin.
Yes. Well, all those Italians
to cool her down.
All those Italians are related somehow. So anyway, the kids' date ended in disaster with Scott Baio spilling popcorn all over Isaac.
Yeah, but it seemed like he jumped up into Isaac's hands for no reason. There was no need for him to do that.
Very silly. And Julie gets back from her date now with Jeff Wright. Oh, Jim Wright.
Jim, yes.
And
it was also 2 a.m. They just met up. There was no date, really. They were just now meeting at 2 a.m.
And he comes back to his room, and all the old folks are in his room because someone's getting busy in the old folks' room. So
they were gambling, and then Julie decided she pulled out her cash, and she was about to sit down and play cards with them.
Yeah, so somehow this guy has been busy with these old folks. I don't understand why he wasn't able to get with Julie.
Yeah, I think
earlier.
One point there was like were they jogging or she said because something like that was hardly a run.
Oh yes, they're running around the ship. Yeah. That's when they grabbed him when she was in the pool. When Julie was in the pool and all the old folks came by and grabbed him and made him go running around the boat with them. I swear to God, why do they want him? There's no explanation for him being with them other than I guess he's getting paid to be their guide, but it's still stupid.
Right.
Anyway.
So we're into Barney it's Terry and
how dare you give these people's names?
It's the names. We're going to go Hot Lips and Richard Mulligan. That's just easier. I'm trying to say their show names, but
and if I could remember Richard Mulligan's name from Soap, I'd be calling him that. I just don't remember what his name was.
So they were basically setting up for their night. They were getting ready to go out to meet up with Robert Reed and
this forced double date. The Huns and the Doughboys are meeting up for their post-Christmas World War I.
Yes, and
lunch.
For some reason, Hot Lips feels the need to finish reading that book that she had apparently already read, but she was rereading.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. I saw her reading the book, and she was like, taken by something in the book. But
yeah, so Richard Mulligan goes and he's sitting with Robert Reed and his girl.
So that's what's happening,
and they're all getting a drink. And
that's why she's not with them because she's reading the book.
Yes.
Oh,
that was another. I thought that was a very.
I mean, I can understand why she didn't want to go. She doesn't want to be with this ex-husband of hers. Like, I guess Richard Mulligan, because he's the marriage counselor.
He's just trying to make it nice.
He can mend all the
and have her basically hey, you do this. This is closure here, blah blah. But so they're just going back and forth here, and she's late still, and they announce bingo is happening in one of the rooms, so they want to. So
Richard Mulligan goes with the young girl to go play bingo, which I assumed was I got the hookup wrong. I was like, oh,
Barney sent. I
was like, Richard Mulligan's going to bang the young girl, and the other two are going to be kind of left.
That's where I thought it was going. Where they were going to be like, hey, maybe we should get back together because the two people we were with just got together. Yeah.
So,
but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of things like that going forward on the next 246 episodes left of The Love Boat.
So Robert Reed goes to Loretta Swit's. So Mr. Brady goes to Hot Lips' room to get her to say, like,
yes,
what the fuck? Why are we not we were meeting for drinks or whatever.
And once again, it's a bicker session, and
but he's wearing a jacket that apparently she bought for him for Christmas one year. So,
and she hates it though, but she bought it.
Yeah, that makes no sense. And yada yada yada. They end up knocking boots here.
She was wearing a perfume.
Yeah, he gets all turned on, and they. I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away as they're going through the dance of love here. You know it's coming up. So
you were just wondering how far are they going to have sex?
I really thought
like
at the last second there, we can't do this.
Yeah,
she's remarried. Mm-hmm. He's with this other girl that's living with him, so we can't possibly do that.
Well, it got crazy because she said, "Help me with my zipper." It didn't go all the way up, I guess, did it?
But shockingly,
the zipper came down.
They do it. They have sex right now. Well, not right now, but they're going to start making out. And
wait. Andy's going to give us a tutorial here on how to have sex.
I don't know that, but if you could
together we can do this.
If you could show me pictures. Yeah, so they start necking, and we assume that clothes are going to start falling off. But this is a TV show in the 70s.
Yeah, so it's basically, I guess that would have been probably the perfect commercial.
Commercial break.
To a commercial break, probably.
Hey, I noticed that this time watching on Paramount, no commercials. Is it never commercials?
I was wondering that too, because because I saw the little dots and you could see where the.
I was kind of surprised. I was waiting. I was actually waiting for the commercials so I could go to the bathroom, and then it never came.
I kind of liked it with no commercials because it makes it flow faster.
It got much faster, which is all I'm looking forward to doing. I just want this to be over as quickly as possible.
We love this podcast.
I listen. The show is what it is. It's a silly '70s show.
It's fun to go over and laugh at it.
Yes, we're laughing. I'm laughing at them, not with them. So, anyway, Julie's at the bar with Stephen Wright here, and they're getting a drink. And then the old folks.
Stephen Wright now.
What's his name? Jeff Wright. Jeff Wright.
Jim.
God damn it, Jim. So they're getting a drink, and then the old folks come in with the pedophile from Boogie Nights leading the charge with full Scottish regalia, including a kilt and bagpipes. The worst of all instruments. I mean, fucking a cat is not a musical instrument, and that's what that sounds like. And Brian, an owner of many cats, I'm sure knows what that sound is.
I don't know if he said had sex with the cats that he would know that sound. Brian, if you want to chime in here, please.
I played the fifth.
Yeah. Yikes. So anyway,
right into the next scene, which again is another ridiculous scene where for some reason Chachi's grandmother gets a beer but pours it into a bowl and starts drinking it like soup.
Yeah. And notice this pool here. The water level is bizarre. There is like feet of empty space where there's no water in this pool. I don't understand what's going on here.
And once again, this is where Mrs. Nagatuk from Maud comes running in and just she takes over the whole scene and just says, if she doesn't do this storyline doesn't go anywhere. It does not progress.
Chachi's trying to do the honorable thing here and drown himself. She's not allowing him to do that. I mean, if he just would stay underwater.
An honorable death is what he's looking for here.
Come on. He's probably got a boner. He's a 12-year-old. Well, he's a 17-year-old acting like a 12-year-old.
His voice is really deep in this one, though.
He sounds like regular Chachi to me, but I'm shocked that he's 17.
He's a wah, wah, wah.
Does that look like a 17-year-old right there? I mean, you know what 17-year-old boys look like. That doesn't look like one. Anyway, so Grandma Maud is pushing these two together.
Basically tells them to like get over it. He likes you, she likes, and just she yells across the boat again to like because
lay off my.
They were about to take her bowl of soup.
Lay off my soup booze.
Lay off my Coors Light soup.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of beer's on this cruise ship.
We figured it's 70s. So
it's not Coors Light, that's for sure. It's probably Schlitz.
How about was Coors Original? Was that around then or no?
Banquet beer, maybe. That was the stuff that Smokey or the Bandit was trying to get. The banquet beer.
Yes.
So anyway, Chachi looking smoking hot with the wet hair on his head like that. I can see why the chicks would dig him.
Exactly. Christy McNichol.
She's a little tomboyish looking.
But I think that was a good look back then.
I guess you're right. It was, yeah. I mean, like Marie Osmond looked like a tomboy, and who else?
Which one was she? Was she a little bit country, or was she the rock and roll one?
Is that their song? Is that an Osmond song?
Is it? Yeah, but I don't know which one was.
I know
what.
the song.
I'm a little bit country.
Yeah. The only version I know is when Randy Marsh sings it on South Park. Randy Marsh and Jimbo sing it when when they decide that, America is perfect, fighting a war and protesting the war at the same time. We should do a South Park podcast. Now that I could get into.
I mean, that could be a Patreon exclusive here. You heard it here first. I did have requests of like people were saying like, are you going to do like other shows? And I was like, well, if we do all Love Boat, that's kind of keeping you busy. But I mean, I'd be open to doing other shows throughout here and there. Maybe a random whatever movies, even movies. I think would be fun.
Yeah, movies would be good. TV shows, I don't know, because I don't know if I have time to watch.
How about
another show.
If we pick like if we'll pick a 70s series and we each pick an episode of a certain show we want, because I already have mine picked out for the 80s.
I already know what your episode is. It is
it's a two-parter.
It's the what's happening. It's the what's happening episode where where Gordon Jump molests Dudley.
It's different strokes, though. Yeah,
it's definitely that. It's
different strokes. It's the two-part episode where Gordon Jump
rape episode.
Yes, it is.
What did I say?
You said what's happening.
Oh, I meant
what's happening.
I'm sorry,
you were thinking of. I thought you were going to say
no.
maybe it was a two-part Doobie Brother episode.
No.
Which,
I knew
if
it was
we do a 70s series, I wouldn't mind what's happening.
I was going to say the Gordon Jump raping Dudley episode, and I just got my shows mixed up.
It's fun. Yeah,
I was in the moment, and I forgot what show I was talking
about. I think we would have. I guarantee you, I could line up guests that would want to be on that podcast with us as well
on the Dudley rape show.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow. Now, was he actually raped or was he just touched? I don't think they ever got into detail. He made him take his shirt off.
He has his shirt off. There's definitely things happen when Arnold's not there. Again, this is all going to be on a special episode of. We haven't come up with a name for that one yet, but Different Strokes episode. It was definitely a two-parter, and it's Gordon Jump in the back of his bicycle shop.
That's right. He owns the bike shop. Yeah. And as we've been talking this entire time,
back to the Love Boat.
Hot Lips and Mr. Brady have been fighting after their sexcapade that they had here about what to do,
and then realizing that they love each other so much for the things that are great about each other, and then they hate each other so much for the things that they dislike about each other.
Yeah. Welcome to fucking marriage. Yeah. Like, these people are the most temperamental people. Like, that is every marriage in the history of marriages, except Brian and Christine's. I like to say that she is a saint because she picked up her husband and two drunk assholes last night at a bar after having been home for hours. And then one of the guys wouldn't get out of the car and made a complete jerk off of himself. And it was, she is such a good person. You don't deserve her, Brian. I swear to God, man.
She's a wonderful woman.
Wow. I don't have to live with her, so maybe she is. Everything I know about her is saintly.
What's that expression? Wherever there's the most beautiful woman in the world, and you're going to be able to find one person that's sick of her.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
There it is.
That is not attributed to me. I never said that. I read that somewhere.
Well, you're not married, so you can't know that hatred.
Okay, so now I guess we progressed. Again, you mentioned how they were bickering about the post-coitus.
Post-coitus, there you go. What's their decision? I forget. I don't remember.
It's a weird one, and we'll get to that shortly.
Oh, okay. But, we have it.
Yeah, because we're gonna have Chachi and Christy McNichol are sad, talking about how they're going to miss each other, and they say that they never kissed. And
even
then,
after, is this after the dinner, after their terrible date?
Yeah, this is after Mrs. Nagatuck hooked them back up and said, "Hey,
by the pool,
yeah.
Right. Okay, so they have had another conversation since the dinner or the date or whatever it was,
and now they're going to have their kiss, and this is going to be their wow.
I mean, a very quick kiss. Now, again, these kids are playing. Well, they are teenagers. They're playing.
We have a 17-year-old Chachi and a 15-year-old Christy McNichol of Family fame.
But they kiss for a second. I guess it would be kind of disgusting if it was a makeout session with little kids. I mean,
yeah,
it's the 70s, but still, no one wanted to see that. And they're already on their way back. The boat's already on its way back. And I think I heard them say this was a 10-day cruise.
I don't recall hearing a 10-day cruise, but I do hear
long time to cruise. I mean, that is.
Especially if we don't know where they went.
Well, yeah, they never got off the boat. They never even stopped anywhere. They might have just sailed right out to the middle of the Pacific and just said, "All right, we're turning around and going back."
Not Penny's boat? Is that?
No, it's not Penny's boat. Yeah. So the cruise is over. So now we're at the. I guess this is the
dance where Julie pulls Mr. Wright over to the side there and starts to try and have another moment again for themselves.
Now I know this show is totally based on Julie's the whatever character she's playing, her memoirs. So that's why she's kind of heavily focused in these early episodes. She's always got a side plot. Julie's always involved in a side plot.
There's always a guy in the town that they're docking in. There's always someone that's on the cruise that she went to school with.
And again, now, so they're sitting on the couch, making time, and one of these old bags like drags Steve Wright off onto the dance floor. I'm like, yo.
Steve?
I'd be like, yo.
You mean Jimmy?
Jimmy Wright. Jim Wright. So, yeah, this is, I feel bad
well,
for Julie.
they did make plans to, I guess, well, then this is where he shows up at her cabin. He then shows up at her cabin.
Right, okay. And he's all worn out because these old folks, he's 30, right? He says he's 30. These are all over 60-year-olds. And listen, as a over 50-year-old, I can tell you, I'm not dancing until 2 o'clock in the morning. They'll be lucky if I'm dancing until 10, and they'll be lucky if I'm dancing at all. So
he arrives there saying he feels miserable. Julie's just happy he's there, and she's talking to him as she's getting him a drink.
No,
she's asking him questions, saying,
"This
now
is one of my
know each other."
This is one of my.
You knew exactly what was happening.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the show because they zoom in on her. She's making the drinks. She's talking. He's not responding. So you already know he's asleep. You already know he's asleep. So she's talking. She's making the drink. She's talking. She's making the drink. She's talking. She's making. I mean, she is not turning around for a minute. She turns around eventually. Turns around. Oh man,
we're watching.
She is pouring a whiskey, and it's taken her an hour to do that. She turns around and she looks,
and then you could hear him sleeping.
And you can hear him sleeping. And now they pan down to him sleeping, and now the laugh track kicks in. It goes.
That's what he's doing.
I was not expecting that.
I forgot we had that.
The laugh track just pops in as they focus in on him sleeping.
And then she cheers to herself, and she's two-fisting it.
Yeah, she is going to drink both these things. And he's passed out in her room.
Here's where they mentioned 30 minutes outside of L.A.
Oh, as they're coming. Okay, so this is the day they're getting back.
But this is where Terry, then she's talking to Ron. Hot Lips is talking to Richard Mulligan, telling her, hey, I kind of like talked to Robert Reed. And I took your advice, and then he's like looking at her, and she's crying.
Yeah, she's about
to say that she had sex with him, and she says, "I love you so much," and he says, "That's all you have to tell me," and then gives her a hug, and that's it. She doesn't tell him.
He doesn't have to, but he knows, but she doesn't. She doesn't have to say. And he's probably like, listen, I'm a marriage counselor. There's always that last fuck before you finally never see the other person again. You have to get that out of your system. You have to say, all right, now I know what I'm getting with this guy. I'm done with him.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so he's probably heard this 1,000 times with all.
He's like, she's still with me.
Yeah, she picked me, and she's still Hot Lips. She's still a hot Loretta Swit back in the
although
70s,
I think Robert Reed's doing a little better in this episode.
Well, yeah, that girl's like in high school still, so I guess and she might be younger than Scott Baio actually is. He's 17.
As long as she's older than Christy McNichol, we're good here.
What are the laws back in the 70s? Is it like the age of consent?
Was that
younger?
Roman Polanski era, or
I remember hearing tale of age of consent being like 14 in certain states, like in Alabama and stuff like that. Is that still true, or is it just in general 18 across the board?
Are you asking Siri? Because I don't know where you're looking at me.
I figured you have it on lock where the rules are. I remember when that dude, that senator guy, what was his name a couple years ago? The Alabama guy.
Falwell?
Nah. I don't know. They were accusing him of like being a pedophile, and he's like, well, the girl was 16 and the age of consent.
Didn't
14.
they just get that guy in Florida for that, didn't they? Gates?
Oh, I don't even know.
I think they just got somebody in Florida in trouble for that.
The guy was running for senator, and he was with a 16-year-old. And he was like, well, the age of consent's 14. So I'm good by years. There's grass on the field. Play ball.
He said, I'm thinking about ending it with her.
So now we're wrapping up this plot. Chachi and Christy McNichol.
It was the greatest days of their lives. They're saying I love you. She says I love you, and he won't say it back.
And he does his Igor thing again,
and he says goodbye.
Yeah. Hey, goodbye. And that's it. So they've kind of ended it on a bad note. They did not find love.
To be continued.
Yeah, and now
we get Julie and Jim.
Jim Wright. Jim
Wright. Yeah.
All right.
And this is where he promises to come see her
in L.A.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And once again, here's where the group explains what why they why they took Jim away from Julie all these times. And do you remember what it is, or do you want?
I think the woman says like, "Sorry for being a huge cock blocker," right? Doesn't she say that
basically
at some point?
because the group felt that they have less time left on this earth, that they should be able to do what they want to do rather than
You're right.
what the 30-year-olds
And
want to
then
do.
Julie does the old, "Oh no, you got plenty of time. You got minutes." Yeah, look at you. You'll probably make it to the 80s, the 1980s. I mean.
Looking at it
They're
now,
definitely in their 80s.
again, we have the episode on here. That old guy that's in that group, the '60s group, Commandant Lassard is what I'm getting right now.
Oh, okay. He does look like a Commandant Lassard, but he's definitely the pedophile from Boogie Nights. So their explanation for taking this guy away from an easy bang of Julie is that they have less time on this planet.
Yeah,
but why'd they need him? They were dancing and fucking around the whole time with Adam.
I didn't understand it either.
Doing?
I mean, they could have got Stooping to help him with a few things. He hasn't done anything.
Or, where's Gopher this whole episode? Gopher could have been out there doing
Gopher and Stooping were like lacking in this episode.
I mean, Isaac had a couple scenes early on.
This was Isaac's breakthrough.
But he's done nothing in the last half of this. After he got the popcorn spilled on him, he's done nothing since then. He hasn't been here. Doc hasn't been here. This was a Julie-heavy episode.
And right after this explanation that you get here, that's when you get Chachi and Christy again. Chachi yells off to her and says, "Hey, remember that thing you said you do, which is love me? Yeah. I do too." And then they say, "What's that mean?" And they wouldn't say. Having
been accused of using those words too early in a relationship, these kids are using that way too early in a relationship.
Well, they're 12.
Just
met 77. What do you expect?
They just finally had a conversation that didn't involve him acting like a freak the day before, and he's already like, "I love you." Like, really? I think it's a little early. It's a little early.
The ending here, I guess we're getting a waves goodbye here, I guess.
And when I say I've been accused of that, my wife accused me of that. And she accused me of that like 17 years into our marriage. I was like, "I love you, honey." And she's like,
"Do you?"
She's like,
"Do you?"
She responded with the, "And I love you too." I was like, "Really? Come on." Yeah.
But the final gag is when the two couples, Richard Mulligan and Hot Lips and Robert Reed and his girl, are saying goodbye to each other, and as the two couples are supposed to go off, they split and go with the wrong one.
And Richard Mulligan stupidly points it out. He should have grabbed the young girl and been like,
he should have just hopped in.
Go.
Let's do this.
We keep ending up together. Fate is telling us we should be together.
And
they're all,
once they realize that and they switch it out, and that's the end of our episode here.
This was a high risk, low reward. No, what am I trying to say here? The cast in this is the best so far. The
most bang for your buck.
Maybe the plots though are
we haven't had a really great plot. We've had decent
very
cast.
Dumb.
I mean,
not
John Ritter
bad.
last week.
Yeah, that's probably the best one. John Ritter. I mean, like the worst one, Sherman Hemsley getting caught in an elevator for the entire time. You got Sherman Hemsley, you're just going to like leave him.
But don't forget who he was fighting with.
I'm just saying, Esther. But on this one, yes, so you had two young people finding love, I guess, and then you have the Robert Reed, you have Hot Lips and Mr. Brady's story, whatever, and then Julie really goes nowhere. It's a nowhere kind of plot.
We're going to see a lot of that with Julie. But speaking of bang for your buck cast, we got next week Milton Berle.
Oh, wow.
Bill Bixby.
Nice.
Our first appearance of Charo. Our second appearance of Audra Lindley.
Wow, our first repeat offender. Nice. Okay.
She's playing a different character this time, though, so it's not the same character. I wonder,
is she going to be, like the last time we saw her, she was embracing her old age, which was like 50, and not dyeing her hair, not wearing a wig.
She just let her hair go gray, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So we got, okay, Charo, Bill Bixby.
Milton Berle.
You think he's going to take his dick out?
Do you think we could get any of them for this? Maybe Charo.
Is Charo still alive?
Charo's our only...
all right. Is that it? Four? So I wonder...
That's our main... There's
I don't
Brenda... There's another one, Brenda Bennett, but I'll bring her up later. She
Yeah, I don't want to spoil next week's with any kind of speculation even to what's going on next week. Because I don't want to think that, like, is Bill Bixby
I just thought
hooking
that
up
was
with
fun.
Charo,
We're getting some old school like Milton Berle. I thought was fun. Bill Bixby, and just,
that's for people of a certain age, and I'm going to say the three of us here. That is our entire
and I'm 26
experience with some of these older actors. Milton Berle being a perfect example. Like I've known the name my entire life.
I've known him from like variety shows, maybe, and
but I'm saying I
shows.
Probably saw him on Love Boat, and I was like, okay, that's that Milton Berle guy. But I only bring that up because at work, not currently, but within the last 5 years, I asked a bunch of 20-somethings, do you know who Bob Hope is? No one knew who Bob Hope was. Like, Bob Hope's legacy is already done. So if they had a show similar to this in the 2000s where older people had a chance to have one last shot where they were going to be on a show that young people were watching, they'd be remembered. Now, I mean, who's going back and watching a Bob Hope New Year's special from 1975 to know who Bob Hope is? No one's watching that. So
you got you also think about, like, I bet you could ask those same 20-year-olds if they knew who Phil Hartman or Chris Farley are, and I guarantee they probably might not. Maybe Chris Farley.
No, Chris
maybe.
Farley. I think Tommy Boy still tracks today, but Phil Hartman, I'm sure they don't know, because Phil Hartman probably wasn't big enough for them even to. He wasn't a star.
All those seasons of Simpsons we missed out on. I mean,
but yeah, no, I agree with you, but I don't think Phil Hartman's a guy that most people would know. He's more of a voice guy.
Yeah, I mean,
some people die and their legacy continues. But I would, when Bob Hope was brought up and these people didn't even know who Bob Hope was, I was shocked. I'm like,
when you think of Bob Hope for us, you think about, like, we grew up knowing that name,
and he did all those terrible specials. And I mean, I know he was old when we started.
He lived to be 100, right?
Yeah, and he was doing like USO specials in World War II. So that's how old he was when we were born and first knew who he was. So just the fact that now already no one, we should bring my kids down and ask them questions about who's
that would be a fun. That would be a fun.
Who's
one.
Milton Berle? Who's Bob Hope? Who's Johnny Carson?
Your son's actually pretty good on that. Some of that stuff,
not
though, right?
Those kinds of people, not TV show
Maybe
guys. 80s. I'm sure if I asked him who Judd Nelson was, he'd know who Judd Nelson was.
How many of the Brat Pack can he name? That'd be a good question,
he could name all of them, because Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, and what's the other big Brat Pack movie? Maybe 16 Candles. He's seen all those movies because he's a. Should we end the Love Boat podcast?
I guess
start another podcast.
I think we already went into our other nonsense one, didn't we? That's a good idea.
I somehow got
like the different
distracted and off topic.
And they could ask us questions.
Well, it was funny actually. Are we starting a new podcast now?
Well, don't we have to say goodbye?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. And
fuck. What's this? Which one is this called?
This has been. I'm Jason.
Oh, I'm Andy.
And this has been Exciting and New Podcast with our producer,
Brian.
Oh, he's so sexy. Later.